Okay, well, hello everybody out there. I am your host, John McClain, and I'm going to welcome you to the very first episode of Armscor Presents. As I said, my name is John McClain. I am one of the team shooters for Team Armscor, along with the National Product Training Manager for Rock Island Armory and Armscor. And I am very, very blessed as my very first guest to have a great friend on board with me, Miss Julie Golob. And Julie, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Or Julie Golob? Julie Golob. Which do you go by anymore?
My last name is Golob. My married name is Golob, but I just dropped the ski and added a B.
Got it. Okay. See, so you confuse me. See, that's the problem. I know you too well, and I'm like, wait, Julie Golob, that sounds like an old name.
It's true. Like, people who know me from back when know the old name, but it's really, my new name is actually kind of old now. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
Julie G.
Julie G. Either way. Okay. So Julie, tell everyone just a little bit about you and some of the things that you've accomplished.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be among your first guests on your podcast. I'm Julie Golob. I'm a professional competition shooter. I've traveled the world competing in practical shooting and action pistol, and I've enjoyed a long career. It started shooting with my dad when I was just 14 years old, and then eventually I joined the Army Marksmanship Unit, and now I get to do what I love as a pro shooter, so it's been a fun journey. And along the way, I got to meet John.
And that's where she regretted it all.
Oh, no. Not at all.
So yeah, we were actually just kind of discussing before we even started recording here how long it's been since we actually got a chance to shoot with each other.
It's been a while. It's been too long, actually. And we're basically neighbors, so there's no excuse for it.
We really are. Yeah, you're like an hour down the road from me now. And but obviously you're in a very interesting circumstance with your family and stuff, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. Like, I can't just come swing by and have beers and stuff like that.
Right.
But I do want to give you an opportunity real quick because but before we get too into this, I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of give everyone out there a brief rundown of this terrible, disgusting disease that your family has to deal with, and bring some awareness to it. So I'm going to give you the floor here for a bit, and you can kind of shed some light on the situation.
Well, I appreciate that. So I've been shooting with John forever, and when my daughter turned, 12, we learned that she had a very rare disease called Juvenile Dermatomyositis. It's a mouthful. And what happens is the immune system starts to attack the body, the muscles in particular. So we've been on a fun journey of lots of infusions and trips to Children's Mercy Hospital and all of that. It's been quite a ride, but we are doing very well. She's doing very well. And if you want to learn more about it, you can visit curejm.org.
Perfect. And one of the things I want to discuss too, and so remind me if I get off track about it, was the awesome trip you got to take your kiddo on as far as the elk hunt goes. So we'll talk about that.
Sure.
A little bit down there. Now, I do want to start off with, the idea behind this podcast was that I didn't want it to be something super specific to just one brand. I wanted it to be for all my friends and all in the industry and guests and stuff to be able to talk about whatever. So you obviously shoot for Smith & Wesson. You have as long as I've known you. Prior to that, you were on Team Glock, correct?
Correct.
And then prior to that was AMU.
Yes.
Okay. So
prior to that was Mom and Dad.
Exactly. And that's what I want to get to here. The first thing I want to bring up is as a female at the time that we were then, obviously things have changed in the world we are in today, but
absolutely.
Back then, what was it about firearms that got you interested in them? And then how did that kind of progress?
Sure. So my dad hunted and shot guns were always a part of our lives. So we, as one of three kids, that was just something that we knew. Dad went hunting in the fall, and sometimes we'd go plinking with him on the range and that sort of thing. But In the late 80s and early 90s, he discovered this amazing sport called IPSC or USPSA. And so he started going to these matches. And I started to go along with him. And what really drew me to the shooting sports was the fact that even as a young girl, at the range, I was treated like an adult. I was treated completely different than everywhere else. And it was a lot of fun because I started to learn how to be a range officer, be helpful on the range, and then eventually learn how to shoot. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's really the people that got me started in the shooting sports.
Excellent. Okay, so you go to the match, you kind of get that experience of seeing what it's like. Because I mean, I remember my first match experience being like surrounded by. I think I had a lawyer. I had a guy that worked for the trash company. I had, just all walks of life were showing up.
Absolutely.
We're all squatted together. So was it when you first got to watch your dad shooting the sport, or was it the first time you actually got behind a gun and pulled the trigger when you got hooked?
So what's way back when, there weren't even area championships when I got started. And our local club hosted one of the big 8 matches of the year. There were basically only 8 of them. And it was the last match leading up to the USPSA Nationals. It was called the Miller Invitational, actually sponsored by Miller Brewery Company. It was a really big deal. And it was there, we would shoot and Dad would shoot local matches, but every August, everybody that was anybody in the shooting sports, Rob Latham, Jerry Michalik, Doug Koenig, you name it, they all came to the Miller Invitational. And so these people became my superstars, the people that I looked up to as a teenager, because I saw them every summer and I started to follow them in the magazines and stuff like that. So I knew that when I became a teenager, after all those years working with my dad, I'm like, you know what? I want to be like them. And so that kind of put me on the journey. And it was hard at first. I was very slow. I like to be super accurate. I want to be the girl who shot all A's all the time. But then eventually I got better and better. And I went to my first nationals as a junior in high school.
So from the aspect of or from your aspect as a lady and in the firearms industry, like what are some of the conversations you have with people that hit you up and say, hey, I'm starting to kind of get interested in firearms, or I've been looking into maybe buying one. What are some of the things that you talk about or you find that you have a conversation about on a very often basis?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that when I do have a discussion about firearms with people is the fact that even all these 30 years that I've been shooting, never have we been more interested than we are now, and more resources are available than ever. So thanks to social media, you can go out there and look at anybody shooting bullseye to what we do, right? And from there, you have concealed carry, you have people who are interested in home and self-defense. And what impresses me the most about the generation of gun owners that we have today is how interested they are at being proficient. So you and I, as competitors, we can tell instantly someone's level of experience by how they handle a firearm. And when you compete, there's a certain way you do things. But now we're starting to see everyday gun owners really emphasize firearm safety and do things more like the way we've been doing them for many, many years. And it's really a really neat thing to see.
I think that, because looking back on it, I remember watching YouTube back before ads were on YouTube videos. And God, I had a chance to shoot with Todd Jarrett at last couple of nationals we had. PCC nationals, I think, was the last. And I remember I was talking to him about the fact that he was probably one of my first firearms instructors ever, because I found like 4 videos of him on YouTube when he did some videos for Black Hawk at the time. And now you can type into YouTube how to shoot, and it's like
you're inundated.
Yeah.
Wade through it all.
and unfortunately, though, the one thing too is I noticed that because sometimes I watch some of the videos and then I'll listen to someone say something and I'm like, wrong. Nope, that's
yes.
Obviously I keep that opinion to myself because I got better things to do with my time than get into arguments online.
True.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. I do think, the amount of information that's out there that is good information really does help build a new community that, especially important, talks about the firearm safety. I think most videos that you see, that's almost one of the the surefire things that they cover is let's make sure we stay safe, make sure the gun's unloaded, or whatever it is they need to do.
Yeah.
So, okay, now when we talk about someone brand new getting into firearms and all that kind of stuff, what do you suggest someone that is just getting into firearms? How do they get started? Like, because I know I've had conversations with people behind gun counters, and I've done it as a newbie, and I've also done it as an experienced person. And that's not always the best way to go, because sometimes they just want to get product off the shelf. So, like, you know, sometimes they're like, hey, what's a good gun? They're like, oh, you should definitely take this super subcompact 45 ACP. That's going to be the best thing ever, you know?
Yeah.
So what is it, if you were to kind of walk someone through that process of becoming a firearms owner, what are some of the things you would teach them? Like, what questions would you teach them to ask someone, or you know, how would you suggest someone go about that?
Well, I think it starts with understanding what the purpose of their particular firearm is. I mean, somebody who's just wanting to, you know, go hunt deer with a rifle is completely different from somebody who's wanting to get involved in shooting sports, from somebody who's wanting to, you know, protect their home. And so understanding what that purpose is and the ultimate goal, whether they plan to carry concealed or whether it's something that they just want to do recreationally, knowing that is very important. And then, unfortunately, but fortunately, there are so many options out there, right? It's like you can't throw a rock and not hit a 9mm, right? There's so many. But this is why it's important to get range experience before you buy. The more firearms that you can try in a safe environment, get training, the better, because that way you'll be able to make the best decision for you, or you can end up a lot like us and just have many.
That's the difference though for us, I think, as opposed to most of, I mean, I know a lot of people that they have like one of every firearm from every company of every, I bet your safe is mostly full of Smith & Wessons, like mine's full of Rock Island Armories.
True. True. But I do diversify at times. I do. So,
yeah. Well, and so, yeah, I've actually started doing a thing where, like, I kind of do these prize gun reviews where, you know, maybe someone, I can't sell the gun or something like that. No one's interested in it. So I've just been like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take it and I'm going to do a video about it. So now let's talk about guns. Cause I got to say this from the Rock Island side, we had a version of a firearm come out that was the STK 100 and kind of copied a polymer gun that we made into a metal one. And Smith & Wesson just came out with an all new metal one, didn't you?
We did. We actually have a couple. We have a regular sized, 5-inch gun. I'm sorry, 4.5-inch gun. And then we have an M&P competitor, which is basically a souped up race gun style M&P. That's all metal.
And it's optics ready, if I'm correct.
Optics ready, mag well, mag button, all the little things that you spend lots of money on afterwards, you know, all those aftermarket parts. We just stuck them on the whole gun. So it's fun.
Okay. Awesome. And let me ask you this. So from that kind of standpoint, when you start talking about optics on some of these, I mean, because it seems to be that's starting to become a thing that, like, if your gun doesn't come optics ready, then you're behind the curve. You're an old school FUD and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
As far as optics goes, are you for or against using optics on when teaching a brand new shooter?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Again, I think it comes down to ultimate goal. Personally, I'm old school, and I think that you should learn how to shoot iron sights first. But considering how everything is going, and the vast majority of people are going to put a red dot on their firearms, regardless of whether they're going to shoot competition and carry optics, biggest division, right? Or if they're going to carry, they're so popular right now, and they're so durable, and they're so different than they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that I don't mind so much if they want to start out with a dot. But part of me inside cringes a little because I had to start with irons.
See, so yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I feel like I've had conversations with other people, like, because I know some people say that the best division to start in when they want to get into competition shooting is open, which I'm like, wow, you must have a lot of money if you want to get started in that, right? Like, hey, let me invest $8,000 in a bunch of gear on a sport that I've never tried before and see if I like it. But
yeah.
the argument that I've had, or it's not an argument, but the discussions that we've had, right? And we'll see if this changes or if I'm sure you'll understand from the viewpoint that I'm about to present to you. But what they suggested was that by starting someone on a dot, what you basically teach them is that the only thing they really need to focus on is a good trigger pull. And because all they have to focus on is the trigger, because you put the dot on the target. Is the dot on the target? Yeah. Okay. Trigger, trigger, trigger.
All right.
Versus the iron sights, when I was learning, it was like, okay, make sure the front sights align with the rear sight. Is it lined up? Is it in the notch? So you're trying to process a whole lot more information on top of focusing on a good trigger pull. So now that I've said that, what's your unbiased opinion? Not the because I'm the same way. I think iron sights are invaluable to know how to shoot, and I think I even prefer them still. But I also understand the other side, because with Scarlett, when I started teaching her how to shoot, it was way easier just putting her behind a scope and saying, put the dot on the target and squeeze the trigger. So
absolutely. No, and trust you me, my daughters are learning with a dot first because it's easier, it's faster, and it's more fun, right? However, I will say that there are still ways that you can teach somebody to shoot iron sights and remove the distraction of the drifting sights by having them shoot from a supported position first, right? So then they learn to feel what the trigger feels like. So there are ways around it. But, with the popularity of them, I would say that, dots are probably going to be the best way to go. But if you don't have one, you can still learn how to shoot great, right? And that's the big thing. So.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. See, that's why I said, I was like, after I say this, I mean, we're both going to agree and then also have our own bias of being like, well.
Of course. But when you think about it, like if you go to your local firearm dealer, your local gun shop, and you buy a gun, the chances of your pistol being less expensive than the red dot that you're going to buy for it are pretty significant, right? And so if it's an investment question, you can still learn how to shoot and be very, very competent. And if you learn with irons, red dots are going to be easy, and that transition's going to be fine. So you're starting out with a really good foundation. It may be a little tougher. It's like learning to drive with a stick, right? Once you learn to drive with a stick, you can drive anything, the Porsche or the Nissan Sentra or whatever, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. No, and no, I mean, I still think too from my personal experience, I enjoy shooting iron sights more than a dot. Granted, I don't have a lot of time behind a dot. Maybe if I dedicated myself to a year of shooting a dot, maybe that would change. But I'll say this, you didn't come to Carry Optics Nationals this last year.
I didn't know.
I decided to go 2 weeks before the match, and I go out to that match to find out that there are 100 grandmasters, over 100 50% of the match was masters and grandmasters. I found out in a very humbling way that I'm not a grandmaster red dot shooter. I got my butt handed to me.
Well, but you're coming from a place of, and here's the thing, you're at the tip top of the iron sight game, right? And so there are less people at that level because it is harder, right? And it is easier to make GM with a dot gun, especially in carry optics. Maybe not so much in open with the equipment challenges and everything else, but it's just like Steel Challenge. It's easier to become a grandmaster in rimfire because it's an easier gun. So us iron sight shooters, we shoot harder guns. So yeah, there's that.
I appreciate you trying to bandage my ego up like that. No, I got my butt kicked. I'm just gonna come out and say it. It was a very humbling experience. But
yeah.
But I'll say this: it had been a long time since I had an experience at a major match where I was almost embarrassed for the award ceremony. It's I don't know if I want to show my face at this match, or at the award ceremony after my performance. It was a different experience in that way. Kind of helped to reignite kind of a little fire, saying hey, you know what? Maybe it's time to put some more work in and get out to the range. Stop goofing around so much with Instagram.
Maybe.
I mean, I still do it for the gram, right? But
of course.
Now, so you haven't been shooting very many matches lately, which is sad, but you do still shoot the occasional match, and Bianchi, That's the big one that you're trying to drag me to.
Yeah.
When is that match anyway?
It's always the weekend before Memorial Day.
Okay. And I mean, that's a very different match as far as the setup goes from what we're used to in USPSA. So for those that are unfamiliar with Bocek Cup, can you give them a brief rundown of like how many days it is, the stages and courses of fire and stuff like that?
Sure. The event goes across anywhere from 2 to 3 days, depending on the year and the number of competitors. And it's a fixed event with 4 stages of fire. Now, they're big stages. They're 48 rounds apiece, and there are lots of strings within those stages. But it's a much more accuracy intense match than USPSA or IPSC or IDPA because you shoot from 10 yards all the way out to 50 yards. And your X-ring on your target is only 4 inches. There's steel. There's a moving target event. There's barricades. It's a very, very challenging course of fire. What's funny is I feel like somebody like you would do really, really well there because you have the visual patience and obviously the trigger control skills. But a lot of people who have come from other shooting sports to try Bocek have tried it once and left because they don't know or understand that they have to shoot a different pace. So in most shooting sports, you walk up to the line, you're given a walkthrough, and then the command's low to make ready, and you shoot your plan, and that's it. Well, at Bocek, everything's timed very specifically. So in some stages, you're waiting for your fellow line mates to finish shooting a string, and when they're ready to shoot again, that's when you can shoot. Or if you're shooting the moving target event, you actually control your pace 100%. And that's a different game for a lot of us who are used to being told what to do and only have to do it for less than 20 seconds. So it's tough. It's a tough match.
Yeah. And again, I appreciate you saying those kind words about my accuracy and visual patience. We won't talk about how many misses I had at the last nationals. Then.
But you called them.
Yes. Now, is there a way to practice for that match?
Yes. There are actually several clubs around the country, a couple here in Missouri and then scattered around. But the good thing is if you have access to a plate rack or if you have access to a 50-yard range, you can practice a lot of these courses of fire, the 2 major ones, plates and practical, and then find a barricade and practice the barricade event. So the only one that's challenging to find a place to shoot is the moving target event. But if you're coming from a sport where you're used to shooting moving targets, once you understand your lead points for the distances, it's not as hard as it is for someone who's been shooting precision all their life and going, oh my gosh, the target is moving, right? That doesn't bother us so much. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now, if I were to come with you, obviously I want to go to the match. I want to experience it. I mean, why wouldn't I want to go try a different game? What would you say? Because we've already talked about this a little bit, and that was basically you asking me what my most accurate handgun was. Yes. Which I still don't know the answer to because it's been too cold for me to go out to the range and actually put targets out and try it.
Yes.
So, with that being said, then what is it? If you could give me one piece of advice to work on before we were to go to that match, to prepare for that match, what would that be?
For you, it'll be there's absolutely no rush. You'll hear the buzzer or you'll see the visual starts and you'll want to just go. And you don't need to. It's a very relaxed pace for someone who is a speed shooter. And after that, it's just a matter of, you go prone fast. You can shoot from around a barricade. You can hit steel targets. It's just a matter of the mental game that goes along. You have to shoot it once to really know it. And it's kind of like, you shot Steel Challenge, right?
I've shot at like the local level, never national.
Okay. But you know how you get juiced for Steel Challenge because you know that it's like everything's on the line for those 5 shots?
Yes.
It's like that with Bocek because you can't take a makeup. There's no way to shoot faster or better. You only have the time that you have to shoot the best that you can. So it takes an adjustment, but I'll tell you what, it helps all the rest of your other shooting as well. So you got to do it. I'm telling you.
Got it. Okay. Well, yeah. So like I said, I do want to go. Absolutely, if we get a chance. Now, let me ask you: do they have the same stipulations in Bocek as they do like USPSA and stuff? So, say like if you have a production division, do they have those kind of divisions, or what is it?
Yes.
They do.
In fact,
so.
most of them try to mirror all the other shooting sports. So we have a production optics division, for example, where the guns that would be legal in USPSA and IDPA are legal there. So it crosses over pretty easily.
Got it. Okay. So in reality, I could shoot whatever divisions I shoot in USPSA, and the same for Bianchi and stuff. Wow.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, see, like it's a game I just never got into. I don't know why I've never even shot like Steel Challenge. At the local level we used to do, I had a lot of fun, but
I think it's the timing of it. It's a nationals in May, right? And if you're competing in single stack, that's always bumped up against it. Or if you're competing in Steel Challenge, that's always bumped up against it. So the timing of it, especially not this USPSA presidency, but previously, they overlapped so much that the people who shot both single stack nationals and Bianchi Cup, they had to pick one or the other, and many of them chose USPSA since they shoot it more throughout the year. So,
and for me, I did it because I'd rather go to a match where I have my speed to rely on versus having to show everyone how inaccurate I actually can be.
But you have time, though. Anyway, you should try it. And if you want to learn more, I have part of my website, Bulletin X, has all of the breakdowns of the different stages and the divisions and everything else that you can check it out. So it's there as a resource.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I might have to look into that because, yeah, I still don't know nearly as much about it as I should, probably, considering how long I've been in the shooting sports.
It's all good.
All right, now, let's get back to the story just because I'm thinking about it now. You got to take your kiddo on a trip of a lifetime, essentially.
Yes.
So let's tell us a story about that, because this is obviously something different than the competition world.
Yeah.
But as you said earlier, like your dad was a big hunter. I know you and your family hunt, and this was just a very awesome story. So I tell me all about it.
Absolutely. So because I've tried to raise awareness and money for our oldest daughter's disease, a charity called Oconto River Kids reached out to us and offered my daughter the opportunity to hunt both pronghorn and elk in the Red Desert in Wyoming, which is a very, very difficult tag to get. A lot of these states have really great programs out there that help kids who have life-threatening diseases go on hunts of a lifetime. And through this charity in particular, we as a whole family got to go out to Wyoming to basically watch her hunt pronghorn and elk. It was really neat. And just there are a lot of great charities out there, whether they're, raising money for Toys for Tots or for hunting charities like Oconto River Kids that really make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And so if you have the opportunity to support them, I highly recommend it.
Perfect. And she was able to fill those tags and help fill your freezer, correct?
She was. She was. She got a beautiful pronghorn, and she had got a very unique old bull who had one of his antlers is actually sticking out of the middle of its forehead. He had some sort of collision, probably with another elk at some point. So he's very distinct 6x6. So it's pretty cool. And
did you guys have him mounted?
Oh, yes. Yes. Perfect. He's in the stairwell, so you have to duck a little bit. We found a space for him. It wasn't easy. They're big.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hear. I've seen, obviously, the taxidermy and stuff. I've never had a chance to go elk hunting. Obviously, whitetail is what we do big time here. Now, shying away from the competition world into the hunting, since we're into it, what would you suggest someone that wanted to get into hunting as a good first-time purchase when it comes to a hunting rifle? Let's talk about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be about brand. If you feel comfortable talking about a brand, then go for it. But really, it comes down to the caliber. The ultimate question I'm asking is, do you go with the FUD 308 round, or do you with the cool new school 6.5 Creedmoor that is just so popular?
So I call me old school, but I love 308s and 45s. I do. So here's the deal. When it comes to hunting, you have to research what you're hunting first. So if you're shooting thin-skinned game or deer or whatever, you have to take that into account. And there's certainly calibers that are suitable for it. So our daughter, for example, uses a 243 for deer. She jumped up to a 308 for the elk. But that's certainly enough caliber for anything. And 308 I like because there's so many different platforms that can basically use it. But if you want to be super cool and you really want to push the envelope, you can go with something like 6.5 or it all depends on what you have accessible. And some states don't allow that. They have restrictions on the types of rifles you can use or even calibers. Fortunately, in Missouri, we're in a state that allows you to have MSRs or ARs to hunt with. So that's my hunting gun of choice. But, it all depends. That hunting rifles are even harder to recommend than 9mm handguns because there's bolt guns, there's, AR style. There's a bunch of different options and different ways that the bolt throw goes. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah, so something from our company standpoint, when we started talking about maybe getting into a hunting line of shotguns, and that's it. We're talking about just only shotguns. Oh my gosh. Like,
yeah,
you can't come out with 3 models to make the entire industry happy because someone's always going to want a different camo pattern. Someone's always going to want a different barrel length. Someone's always going to want a different, my goodness. And now that I've gotten into the hunting world, I kind of see it, but I kind of don't because I'm more of the does it go bang? Yes, cool. I'll use it kind of person, right?
Right.
I think placement is always a little bit more important than the caliber for the most part. But I don't know. It was just crazy that we started getting into it, and it was like, all right, so we're coming out with these 12 new shotguns. So like, yeah, that's not enough. 12 not enough? Are you kidding me?
I know. And then you're competing against some really big iconic brands that have been around forever, right? It's a hard market. It's a hard market to be innovative in, which is why I think the different calibers is where the last stand, the last, frontier as far as, rifles are concerned. But you can't. Sometimes you can pick up a hunting rifle really cheap from somebody that is wanting to upgrade in good old 308.
Okay, so and I was told if you were going to buy your very first, if you're going to buy your first bolt gun, it has to be a 308. Like you can't go straight to 6.5 because then you just never get a full appreciation of what that caliber can do.
True. But you also have to think about distance, right? So if you're hunting whitetail in the Northeast, for example, or in other places, you may not get a shot over 100 yards. And so, that comes into play too. So you can have the coolest, greatest, neatest offering out there. But let me put it this way, our goal in hunting is always to get as close as possible. So
yes,
that's
absolutely.
me.
No, you're so there's I'm sure you know who Cody Leeper is, who's a kid I've shot with a lot, especially in 3-gun, and he's a phenomenal rifle shooter. For those of you that haven't ever heard of him, like you want to learn how to shoot long range rifle, Cody Leeper's a great guy to get in that. And I remember, I think it was last year, he posted a picture of a mule deer that he shot at like 820 yards or something like that, and dropped it. And I think that was, I might have been wrong with the yard. All I know is it was further than I would have been
ridiculous.
comfortable pulling the trigger.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm comfortable pulling the trigger out, like an AR at 400 yards. I'm still willing to take that shot. But no, once I start getting outside of there, that's just,
yeah.
It's a whole other world. Now, okay, let's talk about that maybe for a second. So we talked about hunting different distances and stuff like that. What's the longest shot you've ever taken with a rifle?
It was at a Rocky Mountain 3-gun match. We had a target at like 670 yards, I think. And that's the farthest I've ever shot. I'd never really shot anything past 300 in the military. And then, that shot at Rocky Mountain 3-gun. And
you took that with your AR?
Yeah. That was back in, when was that? That was like 2012, something like that, maybe. Like 10 years ago.
It had to have been a while ago, because if you were shooting 3-gun.
Yeah, it was a really long time ago.
Yeah. Do you remember what size the target was that you hit?
Oh, I didn't hit it, I don't think. Oh, I did hit it. It was a steel target, I think. And it was pretty big. I would say like an IPSC size target, or at least an 18-inch steel, something like that. It was pretty large. I was thrilled.
Well, yeah. And
Yeah.
have you ever shot a PRS match?
I have not. I have not. I want to one day. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
See, and I think that's because I've never shot one either. Rob Latham, if you want to,
Absolutely.
Rob is to that point, I think now, where like if you ask him about handguns, he's just kind of like, I'm going to give you the shortest possible answer so that you're happy, and then we can
Yeah.
move on. And then if you say something about PRS, boy, kick your feet up. You're going to be there a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's gotten really heavy into it.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing where it's just a different mindset of a game, because our game is when the timer goes off, go, like get it done as fast as you can, versus that game where it's more of, well, you have 4 minutes to engage all your targets, go. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you finish it in 2.5 minutes. They're like, great, you still missed 4, so
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But I do think that would be something fun to try out sometime. I know the Vortex guys are all about the 6.5
Yeah.
what was it, PRC?
Yeah, yes. Or even the 22 long, precision rifle matches. What are they? NRL, I think it is. Those look super fun too. So there's a lot of fun stuff out there. There's so much fun stuff, there's not enough time.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the problem. It's like, yes, I do want to shoot all these things, but time and money, because let's be honest, if you show up at a precision 22 rifle match with a Ruger 1022, you're probably like, I don't
probably
think
won't hit as many targets.
yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, no. But it's funny how much we've evolved in, basically the 40 to 50 years of awesome shooting. Like back from the 80s, there were 8 matches that you shot, and Bianchi was one of them, and USPSA Nationals was one of them, and Second Chance, and they were all different matches. And now we have so many shooting sports with so many different national championships and so many different opportunities to go shoot. It's really cool.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that there are different options out there, because some people don't necessarily want to play the USPSA speed game. Then great, then something like Bianchi or whatever, or even the new thing like Prairie Fire.
Exactly.
When you have a lot of options, at least you kind of have a little bit of flavor for anyone else to try. If they don't like something about this sport, they can try it over here. If they don't like IDPA, then they can shoot USPSA. They don't like USPSA, they can try IDPA, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Let's discuss. So you are planning on doing Bianchi?
Not this year, probably not. I will shoot action pistol matches after Bianchi, but I had shoulder surgery not too long ago, and I don't know if I will be cleared. I took off my sling for this podcast.
That's right. I was going to ask you, how is the shoulder? So was it a previous injury that you just kind of suffered through, or is this something that just over time has developed and now you had to finally?
A little bit of both. So shooting since I was 14, and that's 31 years, and I used to help my dad with construction, and we do a lot of DIY around the house and gardening, and so wear and tear, and then of course that pivotal moment when everything just snapped and broke. So yes, but I don't recommend it. Take care of your shoulders, people. Take care of your shoulders.
We've only got one body, right?
Right, exactly. Well, it's funny because, on the range, always eyes and ears, right? You got to protect your hearing and your eyesight. But over the years, you talk to people who've been shooting for a long time, the arthritis that they develop in their hands, and if they've shot heavy calibers throughout their life, what that's done to them. And so I figure after the amount of time that I've been able to compete and do what I've been able to do, and I'm not surprised that my shoulder wore out a little bit. Lots of draws.
Yes, yeah. Wow. You have been shooting quite a while there.
Yes, yeah. I have been. You can call me old. It's okay. I don't mind. I wear my age with pride.
No, I don't think you're old. I mean, you're younger than most buildings.
True.
So, look at the bright side there, right? So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so once you're healed up, then
yes.
What's your plan? I mean, obviously, I would like to see you shoot at some more matches, but I don't know if you ever shoot Area 3. I think it's up in Grand Island.
I have in the past. It's been a while. Right now we enjoy going to action pistol matches with our girls, and both of them are very interested in getting started in shooting as well. And I feel like Bianchi is a really good place for them because they have a 22 division and it's much more laid back. It's not as intense, and speed is not the main focus. So we're building up to that. So hopefully we'll add a couple more competitive shooters to the mix here pretty soon.
So one of the coolest things about where you're living now too, you've got a range in your backyard, right?
Yes, we have. We're very fortunate to be able to access some range time very easily, so that's nice.
Yeah, if I go in my backyard and start shooting off rounds, the cops show up pretty quickly. So.
Yes. Yes, make sure that you're with outside county limits and do all the things that you need to do, of course. Don't do that. Not advocating that. But yeah, no, we're very fortunate. I still spend a lot of time down at Pioneer Gun Club in Kansas City, Bait City specifically, because they have a Bianchi range set up, and it's just easier. Everything's perfect set up. I go there, shoot, pick up, leave, and so that's nice. And also to change the environment. I think that's important too. When you get used to shooting in one place and you don't shoot away from that place very often, you can develop some nerves from that. So diversity and changing things up, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions here.
Is this rapid fire time?
Oh, kind of, sort of.
All right.
I'm gonna make these up as I go, but let's see.
Oh
here.
gosh.
All right.
Okay.
So, single stack or high cap?
Single stack.
Okay. Iron sights or optics?
Optics. Now.
Standard outside. Standard outside the waistband holster or a race holster?
Oh, like for fun, or just like in competition, or like anything.
Well, if you had to pick for,
I read standard holster. I don't need a race. I don't need a stinking race holster. Yeah.
9mm or 45?
Oh my gosh, 9. Although I love 45. If you said 40, I'd be like everything but 40.
Yeah, I think we can all agree 40 is 40's just holding on by a fingernail. And,
no.
In reality, should just go ahead and disappear for the rest of the world. So, all right, Bianchi or USPSA?
Well, right now Bianchi, but later USPSA. We'll see.
Okay, and then Steel Challenge or 3-gun?
Steel Challenge.
Perfect. Right on. Okay, well, hey, Julie, it was awesome to have you on and to chat with you. Thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to say here, signing off? If you want to talk about any sponsors or anything that we didn't cover that's near and dear to your heart, by all means, take your moment and let everyone know.
That's sweet of you. I want to give a shout out to Smith & Wesson, Federal, Trijicon, Caldwell, Tipton, Wheeler, and you for your first episode of this awesome new podcast.
Yes, I hope it comes across that way, because otherwise, then
there'll be one.
Yeah, right.
I'll just replay
it. Awesome. Well, Julie, again, thank you so much for being here. And for everyone tuning in, thank you so much. I hope you guys found this one fun, enjoyable, and make sure that you stay tuned, hit whatever notifications you need to be notified when we have some new episodes come out, because I do plan on doing all sorts of fun content creations with a lot of awesome people from the industry. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of